President Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs weren't just aimed at China. It is aimed at the entire global trading system. If East Asia, as the world's fastest and vibrant economic center, doesn't act now, the global system that we know today could descend into protectionism and chaos. I say it is time to bring back a radical idea from 1991 before it is too late. Yes, you heard me right, radical. Let's look into it. So back in 1991, Dr. Mahathir, the then Prime Minister of Malaysia, suddenly sprang the idea of an East Asian Economic Grouping, or EAEG. It was a bold idea, an idea of bringing together all the East Asian economies, namely all of ASEAN, plus Japan, China, and South Korea, plus Hong Kong and Taiwan as well, to form a grouping. And at that time, the idea was that a powerful economy like Japan could take the lead. But unfortunately, this idea, the way it was presented, appeared to be highly protectionist. It alarmed America, which was at that time championing an open, global, rules-based trading system, was completely opposed about such an idea that could be exclusive to East Asia. So that opposition filtered down to the Japanese, of course, who wouldn't touch the idea with a 10-foot pole, and many members of ASEAN were also reluctant. It was a good idea, but unfortunately, once the minds of the major powers such as the United States had been made, there was no going forward, and this idea eventually had to be scrapped. Observe the irony today. The United States, which was promoting fiercely the idea of an open global trading system, today has become protectionist, with tariffs that shuts down open trade and breaks down the supply chains, which have all been built up painstakingly over the last 4, 5, 6 decades through institutions such as the GATT, GATT, and later which became known as WTO. And East Asia is leading the charge in keeping it open. At one time, the fear was that China would be a country that would lead in terms of protectionism by unfair practices, etc. But today the situation has changed. America seems to be protectionist, while China and the rest of East Asia is fighting hard to keep the system open. When I look back, I think the idea of an East Asian economic grouping was an idea that was ahead of its time. Yes, it was radical, but the aim was correct. With these tariffs coming from America and the retaliatory tariffs that are coming from other countries, we are in a different world. Leaders are openly saying that the world that we are seeing today is becoming like it was in the 1930s. And to me, it is a code word for a world that preceded a Second World War. So if nothing is done to redress this current ongoing trade wars and tariff wars, we are headed for trouble. We need bold ideas that are ahead of their time. So why not revive this old idea of an East Asia economic grouping? I mean, the East Asia economic grouping is a name that I'm suggesting, but certainly we should not have it geographically closed or exclusionary. It should be open. We could think of an alternative name, for example. This grouping can be open. It could invite other countries. I mean, we have India, we have Australia, New Zealand, Russia, and many others too who would want to benefit from such a system. So I think the East Asia economic grouping, the radical idea of 1991, has relevance today in keeping the global trading system open. What are the elements that can be considered in reviving an idea of an East Asian economic grouping? If this new grouping wants to really make an impact, it cannot play entirely by the old rules book. What old rules am I talking about? Well, the idea of an export-led growth where countries produce for export and develop in that process, I think it's not sustainable in the long term, because ultimately we'll come to the same situation of surpluses in some countries and deficits in others. So I think a new model is required. I'm thinking of something like a collaborative growth. We have countries like China, which has massive capacity in terms of technology, capital, R&D, and all that, and we have others as well, like China, India, or Russia. Why don't we look at a collaborative model where joint ventures could be formed so that we produce collaboratively for each other's consumption? I'm also not suggesting that we throw away the free trade agreements that are in place. What I'm saying is that we should look at them, perhaps expand them or integrate them, so that or incorporate this new idea of this collaborative growth in these agreements, so that it could support this new collaborative growth model that I've just mentioned. Many countries have depended on trade to come out of poverty so that they can be prosperous and feed their citizens. We cannot afford to go back to a world that is closed, that is dark and protectionist, where every country will be fighting for limited resources and which would only be a downward spiral. It is not the way forward. East Asia has, in fact, a moral duty, if you would ask me, to keep this trading system open. And then the biggest hurdle, I think, for such a grouping would be the question of leadership. Naturally, China, being the largest economy, would be seen as a natural leader of this grouping. But that would be problematic for many countries, including ASEAN as well. But that doesn't mean this idea is a bad idea. ASEAN and the rest of the countries could consider alternatives, perhaps something like a rotating chairmanship, so that not just any particular one country could claim to be a leader of this grouping, so that it would keep in line with this idea that it is open, invites anyone who wants to be part of it, and at the same time it is equal, so because of the rotating leadership. We are living in uncommon times, and I think it calls for brave and radical ideas to be thought out. So I would strongly think that it is time to dust this old idea of the East Asia economic grouping and see how it could be put to work today in the current circumstances, but with the aim of keeping the global trading system open. If you liked this video, please share and like and hit the bell icon. And don't forget to comment on it as well. This is an important issue.